everyone, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to talk with you guys about something that has been asked a lot. If I've picked a deity that I feel a connection to, that I want to work with, how do I start? And before we get started talking about that topic, I want to remind you all to please subscribe to my channel. A lot of the people who watch my videos aren't subscribed, so if you enjoy my videos and you find them helpful, then please subscribe to my channel so I can keep making videos for you guys and keep answering your questions. I've made quite a few videos at this point about deities, a few about specific deities. I made one video about Lilith, and I made one video about Hecate. I've also been making more general deity worship videos about invoking and evoking, about how to choose a deity to work with, and how to know if a certain deity is calling to you. And now today we are talking about how to start working with that deity that you've chosen. So let's get started. So if you're someone who has found a deity that you want to work with, that you feel a connection to, and you are really stressed about how you start working with them, you want to start working with them the right way, you're not sure how to start working with them, let me just start off by reassuring you that there's no wrong way to start working with a deity. You can do a lot of different things to start working with a deity. And oftentimes a deity is kind of waiting to work with you. So if you do even one little thing for them, or give them something, or ask them to do something with you, they're probably in a way waiting by the phone for you to call them. So it's not that big a deal what you do to start working with them. You can start with anything, whatever makes you feel comfortable. So that really takes the pressure off. Deities and energy beings are happy to work with you. They want to work with you. So when you start working with a deity, or you choose a deity to work with, there's not all this pressure to do the right thing at the right time. You really are just kind of welcoming their relationship, and they're happy to join you and happy to foster that relationship. So here are some things that you can do to start working with the deity. First, you can do a spell. This is a very self-explanatory way to start working with a deity. Depending on the deity, you can do different kinds of spells with them. You obviously can't do certain spells with every single deity, just because different deities have different attributes and different skills, different skill sets. So you want to take that into account. For example, when I started working with Hecate, I did a protection spell with her. That was the first thing I ever did with her. I went to a class all about Hecate, and at the end of the class, the teacher walked us through a protection spell using the Hecate symbol of protection. Another example of starting to work with a deity by doing a spell is, and I'm sorry if you hear a lot of chaos, my little baby kitten Gretel, she is right here under the altar playing with a toy. That's how she's holding space for us. So I'm just gonna let her keep going. You know, she's crazy. But if you hear weird little crazy feet, it's a cat. So another example of doing a spell to start working with a deity is when I started working with Lilith, I did a spell to start working with her. So before I had done anything with her, I did a spell that's in my Lilith video, actually. If you want to check that out, I'll link that above, and it'll also be in the Dropbox. But that spell is at the end of that Lilith video. And that spell is to get rid of an old belief or an old thought pattern that you have regarding yourself. Lilith helps you to evolve past it and throw it away. So that was a spell that I did to start working with Lilith. I had never done anything with her, and I just did that spell with her, and that's how our relationship began. If you feel like a spell is a little bit too much to start your relationship with a deity, you can do something that's a little bit simpler and much more straightforward, which is set up an altar to them. With most of my deities, the way I've started working with them is by setting up an altar. So I have had a few deities, like I told you guys, where I started the relationship by doing a spell. But there are quite a few deities that I've started working with, even one very recently, that the way I started working with them and the way I introduced myself to them was by creating an altar for them. And this is a little bit different because with a spell, you're asking that deity to do something for you and with you. So it takes a little bit more effort on the deity's part and on your part. But with an altar, it's kind of a gentler, more subtle way to say, hi, I've set up this sacred space for you and I would really love you to inhabit it. I'll be doing ritual, spell, offering, meditation, whatever kind of spiritual working you're going to be doing, divination. I'll be doing that at this altar with you. So please come and be present at this altar that I've made for you. With my main goddess and god that you see here, the way I started working with both of them was by setting up an altar. I actually just recently started working with Aphrodite, and the way I introduced myself to her was by setting up an altar to her in my bathroom. When I started working with Sekhmet, I set up an altar to her. I didn't do a spell, I didn't do a meditation with her, I just set up an altar for her and waited for her to arrive, and she did. So you can also just set up an altar. And when you are setting up an altar, don't worry too much about having a statue of the deity. Of course, it's always nice to have a statue of the deity, and maybe that's something that you can work up to once you find one that really speaks to you and one that's financially not too expensive. But I've acquired all these statues that you see behind me over time. For years, when I first started my practice, I didn't have any statuary. I just had candles to represent my deities. So you don't have to worry about immediately getting a statue. If you set up an altar with the intention of it being for Aphrodite, for Sekhmet, for Zeus, for Lilith, whoever it is, they'll know that it's for them, whether there's a statue of them or not. They'll feel that intention that you've set, and they will arrive. And you can use things that connect to that god or goddess to help show that that altar is for them. So like I said, you can use candles to represent a deity, and you can use a specific color candle that is associated with that deity. For example, on my Aphrodite altar, I have a lot of pink and white candles. On my Lilith altar, I have red candles. On my Anubis side of my altar, I have black candles. So really think about what colors are associated with that deity, and you can incorporate that also. You can also add little objects that are associated with them. So again, for Aphrodite, I put some flowers on there, I put some seashells on there, I put some salt water on there. So apply that to your deity. Maybe they're really connected to a certain element. Maybe you can incorporate that element in the altar. If they're connected to air, add an incense burner. If they're connected to earth, add some crystals. You can even put a little bowl of soil on the altar. If they're connected to fire, more candles. And if they're connected to water, have some water on the altar. So in setting up your altar, really have fun with it. Try to make it beautiful in whatever way you think it's beautiful. It's supposed to be unique to you and unique to your deity. So make it special. Take the time to really make it what you want it to be, but also don't put so much pressure on yourself to make it perfect and immediately have statuary. Another way to start working with a deity, maybe you don't want to do a spell with them to start off, maybe you don't have a lot of space to set up an altar to them, or you just don't have the resources for whatever reason to set up an altar for them, or that just doesn't resonate with you. You can also just evoke them so that they're present in the space with you and meditate with them. And if you don't know what evoking is, or you want to know more about evoking, my most recent video that I posted was about invoking and evoking, so check that out. I'll link that above and down in the drop box. But without getting too much into it, evoking is where you essentially invite a spiritual being to come be in the room, in the space with you, and just be present. So you can evoke the deity that you're trying to start a relationship with, and you can just simply sit with them and meditate. You can also evoke them and do other things, and get creative. Think about your deity, research your deity, and see what they like to receive from their followers, what elements they're related to, what colors they're related to. Are they really into divination? Are they really into healing work, shadow work? Do they love dancing? Do they love singing? Do they love music? So you can incorporate all these things. So you can evoke them and just meditate, just sit with them. You can evoke them and talk to them, just spill everything that you're wanting to spill and they'll hold space for you and listen. You can evoke them and write. You can evoke them and dance. You can really, the sky's the limit. You can do whatever you feel called to do to introduce yourself to that deity. You can also evoke them and give them offering. This can be a great way to very gently and respectfully introduce yourself to a deity. You can evoke them into the space and then give them offering and say to them, I really want to work with you. You can tell them why. You can tell them what you're wanting to get out of that relationship. And you can give them offering of some kind related to who they are and the types of offerings that they like to receive. And that's a really beautiful way to invite a deity into your life, because you're giving them something and you're saying, hey, help me, be my support. So that's another option also. And some deities even have, if you research them and you look at the books that have been written about them or the history about them, some deities even have little rituals and prayers that have been written and handed down through time that are for introducing yourself to them and beginning a relationship with them. So do your research on that deity. And it's possible that you might stumble upon a prayer or a ritual or a spell that is intended for introducing yourself to that specific deity. So that's a possibility too. But remember, when you're starting to work with a deity, that energetic beings are there to help you and support you and guide you. They love you. They're infinite beings, and they have an awareness of the fact that they're infinite beings. So they act accordingly. You don't have to be too concerned that you're going to mess something up and ruin your relationship before it even started. You don't have to be concerned that they're going to get mad at you right from the jump and punish you or shun you. That's not going to happen. There are certain deities that are more chaotic than others, such as Hecate, Sekhmet, if you're working with deities like Pan. Any kind of those deities that are more of the shadow are a little bit more advanced, and they do have more touchy temperaments. They do have bigger demands of their followers. So also take that into account when you're starting to work with a deity, that different deities have different levels of hardness, I guess, when it comes to working with them. And if you've never worked with a deity before and this is your first deity that you're starting out with, pick a deity that's not so complicated. Pick a deity that's associated with protection or healing or love or beauty, motherhood, something like that that's more nurturing and easygoing. So as long as you pick a deity that you're comfortable with and you do your research on that deity, no matter how you start a relationship, it will flourish into a beautiful thing. So don't worry too much about mucking it up. So that is all the information I have to share with you guys today. I hope that this was helpful, and I hope that it helps you to start your journey with deities. If you start to work with a deity, let me know in the comments how it goes and how you feel starting out that relationship. And let me know what deities you're starting to work with. I love hearing about the deities that others work with, as my pantheon of gods is very specific. And everyone has their own gods that they feel called to. So share in the comments what you feel called to and who you're working with. And also, I'll be continuing to do more god and goddess spotlights, videos all about certain gods and certain goddesses. So leave any requests that you have in the comments about different deities that you really want to know more about. Oh, visitor. Hey, girl. You don't have anything to say? That's rude. And I can't always do every deity that's suggested simply because I don't know everything about every deity. But I do know a lot about Greco-Egyptian gods and goddesses, Greco-Egyptian magic and ritual. Leave your requests and I will do all of them that I can. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you found it helpful. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you soon. Blessed be.